Progressive presents an interview with your upstairs neighbor.
My name's Barry. I live right above you. I don't host parties. I host after parties. They're like parties, only louder and nobody goes home. You can see right here I ripped out all the carpeting because it was holding me back with my pogo stick. Man's got a pogo. Oh, I'm a prankster. I'll grease up a soda can and then when somebody grabs it, boom!
Progressive can't save you from your upstairs neighbor, but we can save you money when you bundle renters and auto insurance with us. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Bundle discount not available in all states or situations.
The world-famous NFL Bettors Tailgate Party, tracing its roots to the Scorephone days well back in the last century. And we just continue to rock. Despite that absolute bad beat on the Florida game under yesterday, we go 7-2. That's 24-9 in football. Actually, we were 1-1 in Major League Baseball, so 8-3 overall, but the 7-2 record is football. 11-4 NFL. Forget about our college football dominance. We're dominating NFL as well. Season high 9 Sunday NFL winners. 3 Sunday Wise Guy plays led by the home underdog game of the year. And it is all at offshoreinsiders.com. Remember, if you like this information, please literally like it, share, subscribe. Packers and the Lions. Road teams winless on the road, but decent at home, are 178, 118, and 8. That angle would favor Green Bay. And of course, all records are against the spread. Now, what that is what we call our anti-splits angle. And this crosses sports. NBA starts in, 9 days, I think, something like that. NBA, about 9-10 days away. That angle will make you and I a fortune this basketball season. When I first got started on the internet, I used to always like to read articles from other handicappers. And so many handicappers talked about splits. And they got it wrong. They said, you know what? There are teams that are much better at home than they are on the road. Be aware of that. Bet those teams at home. Bet against them on the road. Hashtag fake news. Quite the opposite. Regression to the mean, both in the NFL and the NBA. Generally, teams that are substantially better at home than on the road, it's quite the opposite. You want to bet against them at home. You want to bet that they're not going to be quite as dominant at home, and you want to bet on they'll be better on the road. And the computer verifies that. Fade road teams off of a shutout win, though, is 60-38, unless that team is a big favorite. But Detroit would benefit from that. When you got a team that has the better net yards per play, but the inferior record. So that's essentially looking at a team's net yardage, and when the net yardage is better than the team's straight-up record, go with that team that has the worst record. So in the case here, Detroit, if you didn't even know what their straight-up record is and you looked at their net yardage, you would think that Detroit would have the better record, but they don't. And in circumstances like that, go with the team with the worst record, 738 and 655. Gets back to one of our golden rules of gambling. There is no statistic in gambling more deceptive than straight-up record. Straight-up record, very, very deceptive, and so many of our winning angles in every damn sport exploits deceptive straight-up records, and, there's another example there. Injuries for fantasy football and gamblers. Lions wide receiver Marvin Jones, who has 15 catches this year for 2 touchdowns, is out. Damn good player. 265 career receptions. And there we go. All right. I'm glad we got that. I thought I heard a notification that somebody, S. Gleason, says there are some plays today he's excited about. Great day to make some money. You better believe it, Mr. or Ms. Gleason. We have a big day, as we said, at offshoreinsiders.com. But, and a lot of people, they like to share their favorite plays as well. So whether you are whether you're watching this live, whether you are watching this on delay, please feel free to comment. You got to factor Rodgers playing on turf with his bad leg. That's true. That is true. Nick Nosti, or Nosti, I think it's Nosti. I'm sorry if I mispronounced. Whoops. Let me add that. Hopefully I did add your comment, I believe. But yes, if that's true, but at the same time, he has a long history. Aaron Rodgers, there we go. Aaron Rodgers has a long history of being very questionable, entering a game, and having a spectacular effort. There's few quarterbacks in the history of the game, that the injury report didn't look all that good, and Rodgers had a great game. The Broncos and the Jets, road teams winless on the road, but decent at home. Again, my anti-splits angle, 178, 118, and 8. That would favor Denver. And LIB Sports, yes, any input on... they keep changing this. I love the fact they keep changing. There we go. They keep changing the software, so adding it to the broadcast is a little bit differently. LIB Sports, yes. Any input on Tennessee? We will, in fact, have news and notes on every single game. Raiders and the Chargers go against bad defenses off of a win, 129-72. That would benefit the Raiders. Oakland, 4-14, laying 3 or more. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's wrong. That would be San Diego. Or, yeah, Oakland, the damn LA, whatever city the Chargers are. The LA Chargers, 4-14, laying 3 or more at home with 9 straight up losses. And why is that? We say time and time again, Phillip Rivers, he is the ultimate. There is, in the history of the NFL, I don't know if there's a bigger box of chocolates quarterback, as I like to say, where, he'll look like a Hall of Famer one game and a backup quarterback the next. He is feast or famine, so it's no surprise when you got a guy like Phillip Rivers. The box of chocolate guys, as I like to call them, are predictably unpredictable. Kind of use those terms interchangeably. Yeah, we bet on unpredictability. The NFL is a regression of the mean sport. Betting on unpredictability is a major, major key to winning. And so the Chargers with Phillip Rivers, 4-14, laying 3 or more at home, 9 straight up losses, 9 miles per hour wins, and that's right on the cusp. So usually once you get in the double digits, it becomes significant. As far as, I always said, look, I'm not a big live bettor, but Phillip Rivers, I would always, when he's got a big lead, I'd bet against him on the live line. When he's trailing, I'd bet on him. Yeah, Nick Nosti, we're going to talk about the biggest line moves. We'll have the biggest line moves and the biggest sharp moves. The line move in the Tennessee-Buffalo game. The public definitely loves betting road favorites. The public loves betting against bad teams, perceived bad teams. And, Buffalo is certainly perceived that. And that's why there's a big difference between sharps and squares. For the most part, sharps like to bet on bad teams and or cold teams. But, the public betting on road favorites is nothing new. And yes, sometimes, look, sharps don't always agree on a side, but yeah, that is definitely one of the biggest line moves. But the fact that there's a lot of public money, and we will talk about the big public money, we'll talk about the biggest consensus based on number of bets. That'll be later on in this report. But, the public betting on a road favorite is the least shocking thing in the world when it comes to gambling, and in the NFL in particular. And by the way, surprisingly, and this is why one of the many reasons I love computer software so damn good, it eliminates your prejudices. I used to like to bet home dogs in just about every single sport. In the NFL, it's quality still over, hundreds and hundreds of games over. Our database goes back to the 1980s. Now, if you blindly bet home dogs, you wouldn't necessarily be making a fortune. And again, I think the stat is just below 52%, so it would be literally right around the break-even point when you're considering the juice. But the NBA, many of our best systems are road favorites, and that's why we use computer software to verify. I always use the scientific method, where I have a theory, and I do whatever I can to disprove it. And, road favorites in the NFL, a big square move. Road favorites in the NBA, which is just around the corner, is often a sharp move. Ravens and the Browns. Ravens 3-1 against the spread with a league-leading plus 12.2 margin of cover. And let me just fix that typo. The Ravens lead the league in snaps per game at 74.8. The Browns are second, though that was 2 overtime games, remember, including a tie. And we've already had, 3 ties in the NFL this year. That's always one of these favorite sportsbook props at the beginning of the year. Will there be a tie? Well, there have been 3 of them already. But they're also the top 2 teams in plays per second. We say time and time again, handicapping totals is more, not just about, but it is more about pace than it is offensive or defensive competence. And both of these teams play pretty up-tempo offenses. Road teams first an opponent that is yet to lose at home or win on the road, 141, 106, and 9. That would benefit the Ravens. Again, another anti-splits angle where the squares would say, well, yeah, if a team is much better at home than on the road, bet them at home against them on the road. Again, fake news. Divisional under based on a straight upset result of the previous game, and that would apply to the Ravens, goes under 56 and 22. One of the biggest changes, again, talk about how computer software eliminates prejudices. I was one of those people who really was hesitant. I didn't put a ton of stock in, divisional games, non-divisional games, conference games, non-conference games. I think it's a little bit more important, of course, in college football, but I just found that some of these systems that hold up, and some of the systems I've traded with fellow sharps, that's where I get a lot of my systems. I trade them with fellow sharps, have bought some systems, and they wind up holding up. There is a difference between divisional games and non-divisional games. The computer tells me, and it eliminates that bias. Joe Flacco, 12-6-1 to Cleveland. That is, of course, ATS. Then again, a lot of teams, or a lot of quarterbacks are damn good to Cleveland. A lot of teams have done well against Cleveland. Cleveland's been a spread nightmare, obviously, over the past few years. Now, again, the Browns, 2 overtime games already. They're coming back from Oakland. I'm not a big spot better in the NFL, but the Browns, really, they've had a very tough go of it. Already played more football this year because of the 2 overtime games than any other team in the NFL on the travel spot, going from coast to coast. Really, really tough spot. Ravens star cornerback Jimmy Smith back from suspension, and also their first-rounder Hayden Hurst. A lot of people are high on this guy. He makes his debut. Now, that being said, the Ravens tight ends have already combined for 31 receptions. They can break them in slowly, but with the aging Joe Flacco, and that's another thing where Harbaugh, yeah, they have been running a lot of plays this year, but Harbaugh's always been a little bit more conservative, one of those guys that likes to nickel and dime down the field rather than what a journeyman handicapper I know likes to call thrill a minute. He likes to use his tight end, so they've got even more versatility at tight end, and keep an eye on that, especially in the next week or two when Hayden Hurst gets more into the offense and gets rid of some of his rust. Yeah, we're going to have a free pick coming up in a moment. Giants and the Panthers, and by the way, the biggest sign-up bonus, look, sportsbooks are becoming more and more competitive, and what you do is benefit from that. You are the beneficiary of that. MyBookie.ag now offers a 100% sign-up bonus. That's cash money. You deposit $1,000, you'll have $2,000 bet with today. Especially if you got Bitcoin, the money shows up in your account literally like 2 minutes later, and they pay you on time, always within 48 hours, generally sooner than that. MyBookie.ag, please use the promo code Duffy. That shows your support for this podcast, and it also ensures that you will get the biggest bonus that they allow. Now, a ridiculous 100%. Giants and the Panthers. Road team versus an opponent that is yet to lose at home or win on the road. 141, 106, and 9. Again, anti-splits angle would favor the Giants. Big favorites in non-divisional games versus good rushing teams go under 35 and 8. Gets back to what I said, where it's just different. Inside, in basketball or in college sports, inside or outside the conference, inside or outside the division in professional sports. Packers wide receiver Devontae Adams is good to go. Falcons and the Steelers. And we'll take a look at the live total in a minute, but totals of 57.5 or higher have gone over 9-3-1, including 8-1-1 the last 10. Atlanta 14-5 with 11 straight-up wins as underdogs. The better net yards per play, but an inferior record, go with the team with the worst record. And again, that would benefit the Falcons. If you look at the some net yardage stats, the Falcons should have the better straight-up record, but they don't. So go with the Falcons in those circumstances. Say it again. Nothing more deceptive in handicapping than a straight-up record. And yes, your free pick is to go with the over. Once again, the over. And thank you, Brian, who's one of those who's joined us, I think, just about every week. And thank you for all those who have commented so far, especially on Periscope. I know I'm getting some good views on Periscope. Most of the people the last couple weeks have been commenting from YouTube. We did get one or two from Periscope last week. And I know when we were doing it during the preseason, got a lot of Periscope people. But say hi, check in from Periscope. And I'm especially curious. Like I said, we haven't gotten enormous traffic on what it is like OKRU and another European and Asian sites. We're on a couple of them, especially if you're watching from overseas, outside North America. Just love to hear from you. Curious if anyone's watching from outside North America, say hi. But anyway, yeah, our free pick is definitely going to be on the over. Once again, the over, as I said, that goes against really my roots. In the early days, and I'll never forget, when I used to do a lot of videos with SBR, Peter Loshak asked me, what is some of the biggest changes in the industry in all the years I've been in it? And high on that list is, in the NFL, you used to be able to bet low totals under, high totals over. Those days are gone. So, and that's where the computer, and as Carrie DeAngelis definitely says, yeah, week 5 are ready. Well, Nick is in Italy. That is very cool. Very cool. I could use Hey, Nick, one of the newest trends here in the Atlanta metropolitan area over the last about the last 6 or 7 years. And I do some writing. I'm actually a food critic on the side just for craps and grins. Write for a local newspaper, on a couple websites as well. Neapolitan pizza, real Neapolitan pizza, where they follow the Neapolitan rules about the 00 flour, and the ovens are actually imported from Naples, cooked at 1,000 degrees. So there's two things, my two biggest obsessions: sports, especially sports handicapping, and eating. And yes, Neapolitan pizza has become big in this area. But yeah, free pick is Falcons and the Steelers over. Again, it's against my nature, against my biases to bet high totals over, but the computer statistics, they speak for themselves. And thank you, Marcus, another guy who does join us on a weekly basis, checks in. And again, those of you who are joining in the middle, remember, this is on demand. Wherever you're watching it, it'll be on demand, and we'll send it out. Please follow us on Twitter at Offshore Insider. The one place it's not live is on the audio podcast, but we will upload that within, hopefully 10 minutes of being done here. Rams and the Seahawks. The Rams are 3-1 against the spread by 9.5 margin of cover. Some people like to call it the sweat barometer. That is third in the NFL based on margin of cover. Current total much higher than the previous total. That would be the Seahawks. It winds up going over 87 and 64. So you listen to what the odds makers are telling you. When last week's total was significantly less, the game does go over, even with the rising total. Russell Wilson 4-1 straight up and against the spread as a home underdog. Rams linebacker Mark Barron, possibly the best defensive player, is expected to make his debut. Some light rain is expected. Weather hasn't been a huge factor. Nick says he won't eat American food ever again after eating here in Italy for a week. Yeah, that's interesting. I've had a lot of non-foodies, but too many human beings it's their comfort zone, whatever they grew up with. I've actually had a lot of mostly non-foodies who've gone to Italy who say they like American Italian better, but that's another story altogether. The Jaguars and the Chiefs. By the way, that's one of these things, this software, keep mentioning they continue to upgrade this groovy software. We can now do a green screen live. I do have a green screen. You've probably seen some videos I've done in the past before live where I've used a green screen. I got that option now, but then I'd actually have to shower. And as I've said, Sunday mornings, we want to get this out as soon as possible, so the green screen would kind of delay things, but it's a really cool feature. Maybe we'll use it during some weekday live broadcast. Who knows? The Jaguars and the Chiefs. The Chiefs are the only 4-0 against the spread team, though their margin of cover at 7.1 is the fourth best margin of cover in the league. So basically what that means is, yeah, they're covering, but not wide margins. So Mere straight-up records, if you only use mere ATS records, and even, some people out there whose opinions I respect, when they give their analysis, they'll even say, well, yeah, this team's covered, 7 of the last 8 is a road favorite, and that's relevant because you're talking about the current personnel and the current coaches usually, but without a margin of cover, it's a margin of cover truly puts that into perspective. The Chiefs' 3 of 4 games have been on the road so far. Jaguars' 3 of their 4 games have been at home. So, you could argue that the Chiefs, the stats are a little bit deceptive, benefiting the Jaguars because so far it's been a home-heavy schedule. I mean, look, that's not that uncommon, obviously, when you're only talking about Week 5, but keep that in mind. Chiefs have gone over 3-1 by an average of 13.4 points per game, second highest in the league. Yeah, you'd probably think it was far and away the highest. We all know about Pat Mahomes. My goodness, will this guy ever slow down? Go against bad defenses. Off of a win is 129-72. That says to go with the Jaguars. Now, when the road team has an inferior straight-up record but is not a significant dog, go with the odds maker's knowledge and go with that team, 189, 150, and 8. Go with Jacksonville. Again, with home field advantage being worth 3 points. Two equally matched teams, you'd have a 3-point home favorite. Well, Kansas City has an even better record, so that would suggest that they should be a pretty big home favorite, and they're not. Use the odds maker's knowledge against them. Listen to what the odds makers are telling you, however you want to put it. I've heard it phrased a couple different ways. For a lot of people, what does that mean? But for me, so many of our angles are counterintuitive. And again, when the point spread doesn't make sense based purely on straight up records, go with the counterintuitiveness and listen to what the odds makers are telling you. So this system would say to go with Jacksonville because, again, if you looked at the mere straight up records, Jacksonville should be a bigger dog as the Chiefs are 4-0, the Jags 3-1 straight up. Justin Fournette, though, was out for the Jags. However, the Chiefs star safety Eric Berry's likely out. They already struggle on defense, and certainly one of their best members of the secondary is out. Kansas City off a short week and playing in high altitude. However, we looked it up. No real advantage for the Broncos playing a team off a Monday night football game. And it's not counterintuitive. It's not the other way around. It's basically around 500. Better net yards per play, but an inferior record. Go with a team with a worse record. We explained that earlier. Here, 738, 655. That would benefit the Jaguars. And a sub-angle, a really deep sub-angle. Angle that basically says if a team's record is substantially better than their net yards per play, and said team's a favorite, fade that team. That goes with the Jaguars. Now, I know I said a couple things there. Essentially, what it means is when the yards per play statistics say that a team's straight-up record is deceptive, fade the team with a straight-up record that isn't quite as good as the yards per play statistics say. Light rain is expected, but again, nothing major today as far as precipitation or winds. The Cardinals and the 49ers. Arizona's 2-2, minus 9.1 margin of cover, second worst in the league. They're the second best under team, but number one among teams that have played 4 games. Remember, we've already had some buys. They've gone under minus 8.8 points per game. Cardinals dead last in plays per game. So again, it's about pace. Dead last at 49.5 snaps per game. Road team versus an opponent that is yet to lose at home or win on the road is 141, 106, and 9. That would benefit Arizona. Another one of our anti-splits angle. San Fran 0-10 is home favorites, with half of those being straight-up losses. Card star wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald is good to go. This is the one where the winds could be a little bit of a factor. We say time and time again, when it comes to weather, the single most important thing to look at is winds. Once you get above 10, 15 miles per hour, it does become significant. So this is kind of on the cusp of it. 13 miles per hour winds expected. Dolphins and the Bengals. Bengals go over all 4 games by an average of 13 points per game. Miami second to last in plays per game. Only 0.5 snaps behind Arizona. But just to put this into perspective, they have 7.5 fewer than the number 3 team, the Dallas Cowboys. So, yeah, they are definitely a very slow-paced team. Now, our bubble burst angle doesn't work quite as good in the NFL as it does in college football or college basketball or even, NBA, but when a team is off of a devastating first loss, you usually fade them. Cincinnati, that would say to go with Cincinnati, 64-34. Go with road underdogs off a loss versus an opponent off a road game under very specific circumstances that apply today is 84-23. That would favor the Dolphins. Go against bad defenses off of a win. 129-72 favors Miami. Andy Dalton, 34-21-6. When a majority of the tickets are bet on his team, that record's, of course, ATS. That's a whole hell of a lot of pushes. What about, 6 out of 70 games were pushes. But anyway, so Andy Dalton is good when the public likes him. Some of these are I report, you decide. I like to report stuff that a lot of people like. I may not put as much stock in that. I'm not so sure I would put a lot of stock in that, but some of you would. Now again, NFL regression of the mean sport. Teams off of a loss of 20 or more. 405 and 388 against the spread. I'm sorry, I think that's like 405 and 288. I believe that is a typo. 405 and 388 would not be impressive. But yeah, teams coming off of blowout losses are actually usually do bounce back. The Dolphins. Bengals get linebacker Vontaze Burfict back. Easy to hate, but he's a hell of a player, so that's significant. Vikings and the Eagles, one of the marquee games of the day. Playoff rematch, of course. Vikings are 2-2 against the spread, but with a league worst minus 9.2. And yeah, kind of shows that there's no perfect stat. That's why you got to weigh all the information. Yes, I do realize the reason they have such a horrible margin of cover was their historic loss to Buffalo, which one of Vikings podcasts I meant to actually look. I know it was one of the biggest upsets, period, in the history of the NFL based on point spread. Probably the biggest blowout ATS, because it wasn't exactly a last-second field goal where they lost. But yes, it is very important to weigh record against the margin of cover, but this is one case where just one of the craziest results ever. Buffalo, Minnesota kind of distorted it. Philadelphia, 73 snaps per game on offense. Home favorites off of an overtime loss are 51-72 against the spread. That would say to fade Philadelphia in these circumstances. Go with road underdogs off of a loss. Yeah, well, that's all right. Let's get Dalvin Cook is out for Minnesota. Only 36 yards rushing so far this year. I'm sorry, only 36 rushes for 98 yards, but he still keeps the defense honest. So statistically, may not be that big, but this was supposed to be a big breakout year. If he was healthy and he can really open up that offense, but he's out. Viking safety Anthony Harris is back. Philadelphia, though, will be without Darren Sproles. Now, keep in mind, Philadelphia, of course, getting healthier. Alshon Jeffrey returned last week. 8 catches for 105 yards. Carson Wentz, this is his 3rd game back. So, there is plenty of reason to think Philly's offense is trending upwards. Vikings, pass defense is struggling, slowing teams down to 8.5 passing yards per attempt they give up to teams that normally allow 7.1. So last year their defense was tremendous. This year their pass defense is struggling. Vikings just 4 runs of 10 yards or more. And it gets back to that Dalvin Cook injury. Now, again, I'll report you decide. As we said, splits don't normally hold up from a handicapping standpoint. So I'll report the facts. Whether or not you want to ride this or fade this, it's another story altogether. Since 2016, the Eagles have allowed 12.7 points per game at home compared to 24.1 on the road. But, as you know, that Eagles crowd can be loud, and especially when they're winning. They did win the Super Bowl last year. They were a playoff contender all year. They've been real, so they've been louder the past couple years. Much better defense at home. And yet, defenses more than offenses do feed off of emotion. So the fact that those splits apply to the defense, not the offense, yeah, I would definitely put some weight in it for sure. Vikings rush game just 63 again. With the Dalvin Cook injury, they've been terrible. The Cowboys versus the Texans, and why don't we take a look? We're going to take a look at the NFL live odds in a moment. Cowboys and the Texans for Sunday Night Football go against bad defenses off of the win, 129-72. That would favor the Cowboys. better net yards, but the inferior record. We talked about that before. 738 and 655. That would benefit the Texans. Wide receiver Kiki Cutie with 11 receptions. And running back Lamar Miller with 225 yards on 58 carries. Both game-time decisions for Houston. And Miller, though, is trending to doubtful. Cutie, better chance that he will play than Miller. Now, Will Fuller, a wide receiver for Houston, he looks like he will play. He's got 17 receptions for Houston. And so, Houston's had more than their share of injuries. And you got one guy probably not going to play. Another guy, true game time decision. Another guy will play. The biggest sharp bets based on some criteria. Basically, you've heard about reverse line movement and whatnot. This is based on that. Miami, Pittsburgh, Oakland, and Washington. And we do have somebody checking in from Periscope. So I do know, I check the, what are the locks? Well, we've been talking about, that's sad. That was his newest comment. Yeah, what are the locks? We've been talking about it this entire broadcast, Sleaze. You can watch it from the beginning. There are no such things as locks. Yeah, I've admitted that I've used the term. Why? Well, exactly because, your question kind of answers the question as to why. We know it's a big search engine term, so it's not. I'm not going to claim I've never used the term locks to show up in a search engine or whatnot. But from a true standpoint, and it's a good catchphrase. It's a good catchphrase. There are no such things as true locks, but we do have a big portfolio at offshoreinsiders.com. And if you watch it from the beginning, watch this from the beginning. We give you a free pick, and we got tons of great information. Most lopsided bets based on the percentage of tickets. Baltimore, New England, and the Rams. Again, that's just the number of bets, so a $10 bet is the same as a $10,000 bet. But conversely, most lopsided bets based on the percentage of money. Arizona, Baltimore, Rams. By the way, percentage of tickets, you hear about contrarian information. Slee says he or she likes the term. Don't know whether the Sleaze is a he or she. No, we like it too, as I said. Are there such things as true locks? No, but I do use the term for reasons I stated, and you're right. It is kind of a fun term to use, but again, the truth is there is no such thing as a true lock. There wouldn't be sports books taking bets if there were. But yeah, most lopsided bets, I think, most lopsided bets on percentage of money, I think I just gave that, but just in case, Arizona, Baltimore, and the Rams. Biggest line move so far, Baltimore picked to -3. Tennessee -3.5 to -5.5. Now that didn't cross a key number yet, but still a significant line move. Nick asked about that earlier. And then Detroit from +1.5 to -1. And I like the Chargers and Green Bay over. Yeah, well, the Chargers aren't, but the Chargers and the Green Bay game's over. Yeah, we talked about that. Obviously, Phillip Rivers is one of these guys where, he's a pretty good over quarterback. But as I said, we really like the live line when it comes to that. We'd actually talked about that earlier in this report when we did cover that game. And let's take a look at these live lines at MyBookie.ag. It's tough to rarely move off of a key number, but you got to pay a little bit of juice for Baltimore. If you want the home underdog, you're going to get back the juice. And let's click the load more. MyBookie.ag. Please use that promo code Duffy, DUFFY. Tennessee. Now, it's now up to a 6-point favorite and juicing towards moving up. Now that, 6 is a key number, it's not one of the key numbers. More so, 7 is. A key number is where a number in which a lot of games end with that margin. 3 is far and away the biggest key margin. But the fact that it's going on 6, which isn't as key as 7, that's becoming a more and more significant line move. And you got a fairly big favorite with a pretty low total. And as we look at, some of the the other ones, the Pittsburgh-Atlanta total, yeah, that's up to 58. Remember, that was our free pick, if you missed it, Atlanta and Pittsburgh over. And some of the other, now Green Bay, wow, that's significant. Green Bay now back up to a 2-point favorite. You want to shop around. And Green Bay, when I was looking at the line trackers before I went on, that was definitely where the lines most varied. And we recommend, I think, about 6 sportsbooks on offshoreinsiders.com. I don't care if you're using the sharpest plays in the world, like Mayan, or you're flipping a coin. Shopping around for the best line is imperative. Every sportsbook that we have on offshoreinsiders.com will pay you on time. And yes, San Francisco with C.J. Beathard is a 3-point favorite. The marquee game of the day, Philadelphia, still laying 3. It's been pretty much 3 all week, although the juice is varied. You want to bet on Minnesota, you got to pay a little bit extra. Very high total because of the Rams. Then Seattle, we gave a good statistic. If you're just joining us live now, we gave a very good statistic. What happens when one team, in this case Seattle, their total skyrockets from the previous week. Very significant. And then the Sunday night game, and wow, and that's one of the biggest difference that offshore books had made. Before there were offshore books, sports books would have to move off of 3, and then somebody offshore said, no, forget about that. Let's change the juice. So in the days before offshore, Houston would actually be a 3.5-point favorite, and a lot of sharp money would move on that. But yeah, 3 minus 125, that's pretty significant juice. And when you do shop around for lines, not just look at the numbers, look at the juice. That is important. And then we'll preview Monday on Monday. Let's just see. I don't think there were any other comments. Let me just put this back up. View all the comments. Oh, I'm sorry. Carrie DeAngelis did. Yeah, a lot of people do ask about Survivor. Dolphins traps. So you want to go with the underdog there? Or you're talking about Cincinnati, the Giant? Look, we've said, and I'm not a Survivor guy. Not that I don't like it, just that I've got enough going on. One of the things, here, the LA Rams, I don't like betting on road teams. And the funny thing is, 2 of my golden rules about Survivor pools are somewhat, they're not totally contradictory. No, actually, they're not contradictory. It's more of an asterisk type thing. I don't believe in saving teams, but I also don't like to bet road teams. And a lot of people probably already bet on the Rams because, look, at a dominant team like the Rams, you're always going to get them at a better spot if you're betting on them at home. So in a sense, I'm saying save teams. While I'm saying don't save teams, definitely don't save a team that is playing at home. And, so there's, the odds are generally good. I've also heard a sharp that I know who plays the Survivor pools. I've said it before, he's got a very interesting theory. He says never bet on the biggest favorite because if the biggest favorite loses, then that's happened this year. Some big favorites have lost this year. Then everyone else gets screwed, and you're still around, of course, if your pick hits, obviously. But that's an interesting strategy. I had not heard that before. But yeah, make sure you do use the promo code Duffy, DUFFY, to get the biggest sign-up bonus in the history of the industry. Literally. I mean, there's no legitimate sportsbook that's offering more than 100% bonus, but now several sportsbooks are. Visit offshoreinsiders.com for the details. And please, again, use the promo code Duffy. Shows the support of this podcast or at mybookie.ag. They help subsidize it. They help make it worthwhile to invest in this time compiling the notes because kind of haphazard. When I make my picks, I already got the stuff on the computer, but it's not organized, for a broadcast. It's organized for making the picks, but you get the point. There's still an extra time investment in organizing this and doing a broadcast. MyBookie.ag, a 100% legitimate vetted sportsbook, helps make this possible. And please show your support by using the promo code Duffy. Even if you make a $100 deposit, you have $200 you can bet with today. And experiment. If you got a local guy, you've never done it online, a great sports book to use indeed. And thank you, Brian. Thank you, as always. And thank you for Sleaze checking in on Periscope. Like I said, Our YouTubers are a little more active, but I know we're getting a pretty decent number of views there as well. And, all right, we will talk to you on Monday.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Crane. I'm calling about today's appointment. The tree is scheduled to fall on your RV at 2:14 today.
Any way we can reschedule? We're really enjoying our trip.
Oh, I'm sorry, but that's our only opening.
Can it just be a little tree?
Let me check. No, sorry, our file says it's a huge one.
RV owners can't schedule when things go wrong on the road. That's why there's Progressive, a leader in RV insurance.
Is it 2:14 p.m. or a.m.?
I'm not sure. Can I put you on a brief hold?
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.